My time on earth is gone, and my activities here are past. I want they bury me upside down, and my critics can kiss my...
Somebody big just died. Legendary basketball coach Bobby Knight is dead at 83 years old. Here to help eulogize him is Mike North. Mike, I know you were a big fan. How you doing after this one?
Well, I tell you what, Butkus, Raquel Welch, Burt Young. How much more can a man take?
And then they're going for the jugular, Mike.
Oh, they're going for the jugular with Bobby Knight now. I mean, first of all, Bobby Knight was one of my, I became a coach after working in radio at the Score for 16 years. I took a hiatus, and while I was doing that, I went and became a coach at Notre Dame College Prep, and one of my inspirations was Bobby Knight. And the guy I worked for was Tom Less, who is retired now as a coach, but he had a Bobby Knight demeanor, not the off-the-court stuff.
Oh, right.
Very stern, very defensive-minded coach. The energy that these guys put out, the people that Bobby Knight made better men of. There'll be people criticizing Bobby Knight today about his demeanor and he was a bully. Well, all coaches, most coaches that are worth a damn are bullies. Coach K's a bully behind closed doors. Bill Walsh, behind closed doors, bully.
Well, you could say one thing about him, Mike, is his players loved him.
Well, I think that's what everybody's finding out. It's hard to criticize a guy from the outside looking in when the inside is immaculate with players that he helped. I mean, the famous story about Isaiah Thomas. Basically, his brother stands up to Bobby Knight as Bobby Knight's visiting his home in Chicago. He goes, He ain't going there. And Bobby Knight and him almost went to blows. He goes, I'm going to help your kid, your brother. And that's what ended up happening. So Bobby Knight is a legend, always will be a legend. He won 70% of his games. And he did it with players, 70% of his games that hardly any of his players went to the NBA. And if they did, they didn't do well. Steve Alford can't even talk today. This is what he meant to players. Steve Alford can't even talk to Joe. You look concerned. What are you looking at? You're looking down here.
No, I'm pulling up a clip. Keep going.
You look at the camera once in a while so you're paying attention to what we're saying here.
Yep.
Because Steve Alford, and there's Dick Vitale, and this is when they brought him out. This was his last hurrah, 2020, and that's Quinn Buckner with them. That's Isaiah Thomas. A lot of his players, they all love the guy.
Yeah,
so how
they
can
do.
you criticize him? There's Gene Cady, a coach in the stands, a former coach. There's Pat Knight, who I interviewed. Bobby Knight won. Listen to this. And there's Sage Steele, Mark Cuban. I mean, they're devoted to the guy at Indiana, and they never gave a damn. He put Indiana on the map. And as soon as they left, they took Indiana off the map. Period.
That's right.
Took Indiana off the map. I mean, he mentored Coach K. Coach K played for him. Look at this. The two greatest coaches of all time. The difference between Knight and K is simple. K won 76% of his games. Knight, with the teams K had, might have won 86%.
It's very true.
Against Coach K. But look at these two guys. You can't even tell me who these two guys is. That's Calbert Cheney. There's Bobby throwing the chair. But, I mean, I remember the game, I think it was 84, Dan Dockage. They beat North Carolina. And Dockage held Jordan down because of the defensive plan written up by Bobby Knight. He won a championship with Steve Alford as his best player. What is he? At that time, 6'2", white kid, about 175 pounds. He won another championship with the junior college guy, Keith Smart, who beat Syracuse 74-73. These guys are like above average players, but they weren't, oh my God. And then he wins with Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
That's the one that he got. So he was born because you saw a lot of stuff today. I filled my Twitter feed with the man. I love the man. See, I come from the era where my favorite coaches, so you'll know where I'm coming from, were, well, my dad wasn't a coach. He was the disciplinarian, but my father set my tone. Holtz, Ditka, Knight, Volatile.
No nonsense guys.
No nonsense guys like my father. You know, there's not too many Bobby Knights. There'll never be another Bobby Knight again. You couldn't get away with that stuff now.
No, none of that stuff.
It's a shame in a way because you know what? That was destination television. Watch Indiana win and watch him lose his mind about something.
Well, Mike, I got the clip of the chair. You want to see the chair toss?
I'd love to see the chair. I've seen it a million times. It's a wonderful piece of art.
It's the best. Let's take a look.
An excellent free throw shooter will have the honors shooting the technicals. Looky here. Bobby Knight just threw his chair clear across the free throw lane. And Bob Knight is gone. Well, he came dressed to play golf. Maybe he'll do it. Yeah, we talked earlier about the fact that he had his golfing attire on.
Came dressed to play golf. Maybe he'll go play golf, Mike.
Bobby Knight set the standard for excellence in coaching, for dissecting teams, for just playing defense like nobody's business. And he was born in Orrville, Ohio in 1940, October 25th, Joe. Died in Bloomington. Still made Indiana his home. His heart was always at Indiana, no matter when he was at
Hoosier at heart.
Yeah, he was a Hoosier at heart. He was an assistant coach from 62, 63. Cuyahoga Falls. Then he was the Army assistant from 63 to 65. Then he took over Army from 65 to 71. Then he went on the run. He won at Army, but then from 71 to 2000, he's in Indiana. Then he goes to Texas Tech for 7 more years. And
those are the years I'm more familiar with, Mike.
Yeah, and that's you saw him good, but you saw him fading. He put up a lot of stuff that he brought on himself. Everybody's got flaws. I'm not going to excuse his flaws, but he helped more people than most. The most of the people judging him have flaws and didn't help half the people that he helped. He won 3 NCAA Division I championships. He went to 5 Final Fours. He won 11 Big Ten titles. He won the 2-time Hank Ibe Award Coach of the Year. I mean, 3-time AP Coach of the Year.
They just keep coming.
He didn't have a El Cinder. He didn't have a Bill Walton. He didn't have a Christian Leitner. He had Daryl Thomas playing center that was 6'7". You know, he also, God bless, won the gold medal with Michael Jordan. I think we got a little cut of him talking about Michael Jordan. Do we have that cut ready to go, Joey?
Yep, we do. We got a couple clips. Here's him talking about how he's the best player he's ever seen before he even played an NBA game.
Before he plays a game in the pro.
Great kid. If I were going to pick the 3 or 4 best athletes I've ever seen play basketball, he'd be one of them. I think he's the best athlete I've ever seen play basketball, bar none. If I were going to pick people with the best ability I'd ever seen play the game, he'd be one of them. If I were going to pick the best competitors that I'd ever seen play, he'd be one of them. So in the categories of competitiveness, ability, skill, and then athletic ability, he's the best athlete, he's one of the best competitors, he's one of the most skilled players. And that, to me, makes him the best basketball player that I've ever seen play.
Best basketball player he's ever seen play. And
now
stand
like
still.
In 84.
Yep.
He says this before he plays a game with a team, the Bulls, that never did anything. And he just predicted that. That's the kind of talent. He was a defensive coach. Played on the Ohio State national champs with John Havlicek.
Yeah, 1960, right, Mike?
Right. I mean, I know all this stuff. I didn't even have to do a whole lot of prep. I had an Indiana sweatshirt, the red one with the Indiana script when I was younger. One of the few teams I liked outside of Illinois. I've always been a Chicago and Illinois type of guy. But I couldn't ignore the excellence of watching him take ordinary guys.
Oh, yeah.
And just beat up on people, you know. And but But I think the beginning of, and Miles Brand, put the zero tolerance on him and everything like that. So once he spoke up, that thing was a whole mess. He had probably burnt bridges. It was over. But you know what? Like I always say, when you start at a place, very rarely does it end up that no matter how great you are in anything,
Yep.
it's not going to end up good usually. Look at Michael Jordan. He got kicked out of Chicago.
Sure.
I mean, he was told to leave. Think about that. So, in my opinion, Bobby Knight had a great run. He came back to live in Bloomington, bought a house for $500,000. So, Joe, just a great, great guy. His accomplishments, there's his wife, Pat. Wait, what's his wife's name? He's had a couple wives. Let me just check out his personals here. I want to make sure I get it right. His Wikipedia. Look at Trump. That's when he had some vino. He had some vino there. Yeah. And with Isaiah Thomas. And he wrote books, coaching books, film and television, worked for ESPN. He died with family around him. He supported Trump. That was big. He won Indiana. We helped him win Indiana.
He was a big Trump supporter for sure.
Yes. Knight married the former Nancy Falk. They had 2 sons, Tim and Pat. So I'm trying to get more on him. He also grabbed that guy, that rat. Klingelhofer by the throat. By the throat.
He threw a couple sucker punches in his day too, Mike.
Oh my God, I hate being sucker punched. It's the worst. That's when they want to get you good. Forget about it. I don't want to even get tired of sucker punch. But Bobby Knight's an all-time great. Any following thoughts, Joe? You got any more film? Can we look at?
I got one more clip of him talking.
Come on, you want to use that picture?
Talking about Jordan, how he. You'll see. He's poking fun at Jordan. Let's take a look.
Yep.
Now, Jordan, you've all seen the grin. I mean, it's the greatest grin in the world. Doesn't quite use all of his grin in this circumstance, but he looks up at me and he grins a little bit and he says, Coach, didn't I see last week where you said I was the quickest player you'd ever been around? I said, Mike, what the hell has that got to do with you screening? Coach, I think I'm setting them quicker than you can see them out there. I was flexible enough to look at Jordan and say, then, God damn it, slow him down a little bit so I can see him.
Yeah, and that was about setting picks. He said that at the time, it was the first after playing Spain. He had 19 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists at halftime. And He says, what am I going to say? We're up by 29. We're up by 29. Got to
give him something.
He comes in. He goes, hey. He stands right in front of Jordan because he knew Jordan could take the criticism, but he didn't realize what was going to happen. He says, hey, would you set a screen? We're all out there working, setting screens for you. Would you set a screen? I go, Coach, you just said that. Like you said, I'm the quickest guy around. I am setting them. You just ain't seeing them. So it was awesome. One final story about their general, as I used to call him. The great Jesse Rogers, my buddy. My pal. I'm making him famous again. Yes, that's what I do. And he's one of the best, if not the best baseball reporter out there working for ESPN. Jesse was my producer at the Score. I said, Jesse, I'll give you $500. And this is in the mid-90s when $500 was like $5,000. But I had money to burn. And I said, you know what, at that point, and I said, listen, I put bounties out on guys. And Jesse got guys like Bill Clinton for us, me and Jiggs. He got Jack Nicholson. Look at him. He's eyeing the opponent going, we're going to destroy you. Another net around my head. What am I, a fish? There's the guy that can't even talk right now. I mean, that's an ordinary looking kid. So anyway, I send Jesse to the Northwestern game against Indiana.
Yeah.
And Jesse, I says, I'll give you $500. Now, there's 2 guys he couldn't get. One was Joe DiMaggio. DiMaggio told him, no way. But Jesse's waiting for Indiana to come out of the locker room after the game. And he's by the exit in the end where you go to the buses. And Jesse said, Mr. Knight, as they were coming out, can you come on the Mike North show on the Score tomorrow? And he says, no. And he keeps walking. And then he gets on the Indiana bus, and Jesse follows him up the bus.
Oh, boy.
And Knight goes up and goes to sit down. And when he turns, there's Jesse in his face going, you sure you don't want to come on? He goes, what are you doing on the bus? He goes, look, there's 500 in it for me if I can get you to come on. But he couldn't get him on. They threw him off the bus. But that's how Jesse was. Yes, Laz, my novelty golf partner, one of the best. So, yeah, absolutely. So that's it for me as far as Bobby Knight goes. A lot of stuff been written about him today. He had some illness. We don't know what it was, but he made his last appearance in 2020 in Indiana, then decided to come home and live in Indiana at the end of his lifetime. So I think his heart always was Indiana. It had to be hurtful what happened to him. But you know what? When you're a rebel, part of dishing it out is being able to take it. And that's what he did.
That's
and
right.
He impacted a lot of guys. Any parting thoughts, my friend?
I just wanted to say, of course, we wouldn't be able to do this wonderful program without the help of our sponsors.
Yes!
Of course, the beautiful Cumberland Chapels.
Yeah, and let me tell you about Cumberland Chapels. Spick and span. Cleaner than the Board of Health. 8300 West Lawrence Avenue, Norwich, Illinois. And you go, you see the loopholes, you hang out. You go in there. Well, you don't really hang out. Nobody goes to a funeral parlor to hang out. But if you need somebody that's going to be laid to rest or cremation, any of that other stuff, they do everything for you there. Then, of course, you got Pennyville Station with Tony Antonacci, 112 Main Street. We're racking up a lot of deaths, guys. I didn't know if you knew how this was going to be. But since we started doing this, I mean, we got to take people off the front.
I've done a lot, yeah.
Of the music. Got to lope them off. But you know what? When you do that, you get hungry. Go get what Joe loves, the lobster rolls at Pennyville.
Oh, yeah.
And to the Knight family, condolences to all. As far as Bobby Knight's concerned, he had an impact on my life. No back down in the man. Didn't care what people thought. I think you do, but you just don't let them know. But he's somebody again, pretty big that died today, Joe.
Somebody big just died. One of the best basketball coaches of all time. A real
best coaches in all sports in this country, right?
Of all time.
Yeah.
Definite leader of men. Rest in peace, Bobby Knight, and everybody. We will see you next time.